Islamic Republic of Iran has time and again proven itself to be a remarkably resilient entity, drawing upon a formidable survival instinct and the sheer scale of what might be described as its rather peculiar state apparatus. Yet at a time when it is absorbing immense economic and social pressures in the midst of continuing confrontation with Israel and the United States, and when an Iranian vessel has been recently attacked in the Caspian, Tehran's approach towards its immediate neighborhood, including the Caspian littoral states and in the South Caucasus, is also said to be undergoing a certain change, whatever precisely that change may entail. The Convention on the Legal States of the Caspian Sea was signed by all 5 littoral states back in 2018 in Akhtar and has subsequently been ratified by the 4 nations, with Iran remaining only exception. Tehran is now taking steps towards ratification, and once Iran ratifies the convention and the 5th instrument of ratification is deposited with Kazakhstan as the convention's depository, the agreement will finally enter into force. So, 2 questions are of paramount nature. What would the convention's entry into force actually mean in legal and practical terms, and why now? Is it simply the culmination of a long-running domestic process, or have the extraordinary pressures presently confronting Iran given new urgency to settling the legal order of the Caspian? Joining me now are Javid Rahimli, international lawyer, who's joining from Baku, and from Tehran, Syed Emamian, assistant professor at Amir Kabir University of Technology and co-founder of the governance and policy think tank. Welcome to both of you, gentlemen.
Thank you for the invitation.
With your permission, Professor, I would like to put my first question to Javid, because I would like to start with the legal part of the story. Javid, the first things first, let us get this legal basis absolutely right. What is the current legal status of the convention, and what precisely would Iran's ratification change?
Under the Article 22 of the Caspian Legal Convention and the Vienna Convention on the Law of the Treaties, convention is not yet enforced because not all the member states have ratified the convention. As you clearly mentioned, that convention was signed back in 2018 by all 5 littoral Caspian states, and Iran remaining the only one which has not finalized their ratification process. And just recently, the Iranian government has sent the convention to the parliament for ratification. So now we are in the process of the convention becoming legally binding for all member states. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the convention had zero role until today, because under the Vienna Convention on the Law of the Treaties and general international treaty law, signing a treaty already creates some legal obligations. If you sign a treaty as a state, you cannot go against the main object and purpose of the convention, and that applies to the Caspian Legal Convention as well. Until today, as it is also applicable at the moment, the convention is enforced in a meaning that this member states cannot go against its object and purpose. But if Iran finalizes the ratification, which is also a bit question, because within Iranian domestic political circles, there are some criticism for the ratifications, given that the convention will provide some favorable approaches to other states than Iran. Some might argue that. That's why if it is not ratified by the Iranian parliament, it will be still the same. But if it's ratified, according to the Article 22 of the Caspian Convention, it will be legally binding, and it will make all the Caspian Legal Convention legally applicable to the member states. And those provisions include regarding the maritime zones, navigations, shipping, and the fisheries zone. And regarding this region, especially for Azerbaijan, I would say the very important provision is Article 14. It's about the pipelines through the Caspian Sea. Trans Caspian pipeline project has been discussed for a few years, but the main obstacle was to get a consent from all 5 littoral states. But under Article 14 of the convention, the consent is required from the states where the pipeline actually passed through. So that's a very, I would say, a significant benefit for the Azerbaijan to finalize the Trans Caspian project. And for example, there are some also other provisions regarding the security issue of the Caspian. There is a provision which says none other states beside the Caspian littoral states can get their armed forces on the Caspian Sea. So it will bring legal certainty to the region, and I believe it will be very useful for all the region if Iran finalizes the ratification.
And also Iran has been consistently talking about the military presence of non-littoral countries as a major source of concern. Professor, Iranian officials, as far as one can refer to the major chief negotiators and so forth, they all emphasize that this is a culmination of a lengthy institutional and legal review, and ratification now is within the best interests of within the best national interests of Iran. But fundamental question: why now? Why ratification was not compatible with Iranian interests before, and now it looks like it is moving in the direction of being compatible with Iranian interests? What has happened over the past couple of years?
Thanks for inviting me here. Actually, I'm not a lawyer, just from a political point of view. As you mentioned, there has been several political discussion going on inside Iran with regards to Iranian approach with regards to this treaty. Particularly, there has been several concerns about the approach of the neighbors in the northern borders of the Iran, particularly the countries around the Caspian, with regards to the some security concerns that Iranians have been concerned with regarding the presence of the Iranians very clear enemies close to the borders. And particularly with regards to the Israelis' operation inside some countries close to the Iranian borders. It has been several concerns for Iranians, and there has been several political discussion inside Iran with regards to the treaty that may create such kind of the facilitation for those kind of the security concerns. So there is, I think, mainly a problem of a bit lack of trust between Iran and some neighbors in the northern part with regards to their close relationship with Iranian killer enemies like Israelis. So there is mainly political issue rather than a legal issue. And I know that now the government has sent the treaty for ratification to the parliament, but let's wait and see. But I would think that there would be some discussion inside the government, the parliament, also about the Iranian official join to this treaty by once it's been ratified by the parliament. So there would be, it is expected that there would be several long discussion inside the parliament with regards to this treaty, and there won't be an easy way towards ratification, in my point of view.
Yeah, of course, we don't take it for granted that ratification is already done and dusted. We know that there'll be discussions. We know that there are those inside Iran who argue against ratification. I've heard a number of people saying that it is not within the interest of Iran to agree on framework before agreeing on the fixed shares in the context of seabed and subsoil and so forth. We'll come back to that. We want to, of course, naturally understand the substance of Iranian objection. You earlier mentioned about Israel. Of course, naturally, all the three countries in this region, the South Caucasus, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia, have normal relations with Israel. But we also know that in March 2026, Israelis targeted Iranian naval port in the Caspian. We also know that Ukrainian drone attacks targeted Iranian vessel in the Caspian, literally last month, July. And the question there is, we'll come back to that, of course. The question here is that to what extent all of these matters have intensified internal discussions inside Iran. I will come back to that subject a bit later. Jared, let's go back to the Iranian, let's go back to the legal substance of this particular conversation. I mean, of course, naturally, convention establishes of course, framework. And as someone familiar with the Convention's provisions, could you explain what its entry into force would actually mean for the division of the Caspian seabed and subsoil? Because as I understand, Convention's Article 8 does establish the principle that it should be divided into sectors, because there was one point of view that it should not be divided into sectors. Now, we agreed on the principle, but Convention coming into force really does not provide clarity. All of those things, subsequent matters, should be decided upon bilaterally. Is my understanding correct? And could you elaborate on this particular point?
Yeah, definitely. I believe your understanding is correct, given that the convention does not finalize the seabed boundaries, and it mentions that the seabed boundaries are subject to the future bilateral or multilateral agreements. Actually, indeed, that's one of the reasons within the Iranian political circles that they argue that Iran is putting the process in the wrong order by ratifying the convention before resolving the seabed boundaries where the major oil and gas resources are located. So the ratification of the convention and it becoming legally binding will not resolve the issues regarding the seabed boundaries, but it provides the general framework. And one of the reasons why Iran has been historically going against the ratification of the convention was that historically the Caspian Sea was divided between the Soviet Union and Iran, and after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the new littoral states emerged, and Iran insisted that the Caspian Sea needs to be divided equally, which will mean that 20% will be allocated to the Iranian government, Iran, I would say. But according to the Caspian Convention, the division would be based on the median principles, which would leave only 12 to 15% to the Iran. And I would say also there is some provision which says that the littoral states, they get 15 nautical miles under their jurisdiction, and they will have some extra miles for fishing. So it provides general framework for those issues, but again, the main important issue is about the seabed boundaries where the major energy resources are located. That issue will not be resolved.
Thank you, thank you. Professor, one argument to which I referred earlier, which is flying in the air in Iran, is that, as I mentioned earlier, ratifying a framework without first fixing definitive seabed shares could weaken Tehran's long-term leverage over offshore resource rights. And we talk about, of course, naturally oil and gas resources and so forth. Do you regard this argument substantiated enough?
Yeah, of course. With regards to current situation that we are now experiencing in the Persian Gulf also, there is a time on era that choke points or geopolitical leverages are getting much more important than it was thought before. So it's very important for every countries to keep their sovereignties protected. And as I said, based on current situation, the geopolitical leverages are getting much more important with regards to the current conflicting situation that we are living. So such concerns that mentioned by the colleague before me is there are something that have been hugely discussed inside Iran. And as I said, you need also to understand the political context here, that is a lack of trust with regards to the presence of the Israelis close to the Iranian borders, and even with regards to the most recent incidents that you mentioned before, particularly the Ukrainian attack to Iranian vessels, there was no condemnation or clear position against such kind of the unprovoked attack by
Jared, let's go back to original legal discussion. We talked about Article 8, but what are those key issues that happen to dominate the bilateral discussion between Iran and Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan when it comes to the Caspian Sea and the natural resources, their allocation and so forth? What are the issues that are currently causing problems between these countries?
As you know, the Caspian Sea is rich with the natural resources, and their major oil and gas resources are located. And because the Caspian Legal Convention does not finalize the seabed boundaries and seabed delimitation, there is still ongoing debates between those among those countries regarding which sectors of the Caspian Sea in that area will be allocated to the Turkmenistan or Azerbaijan or Iran. That's the main issue at hand, and there is no between Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan. I remember this issue goes back to the 1990s, where there was a dispute between Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan. Then it was settled, and that issue is remains, I would say, unresolved. Even though there is some like a, I would say, minute improvement, but we don't see any significant development. And also, the context, the content of the negotiation, confidential. Like to my knowledge, there is not available sufficient public information to understand what is the exact principle for the maritime delimitation among those three countries.
Thank you very much indeed, Jared, because this conversation regarding the states of Caspian Sea had been underway for many years, since the 90s, and when the convention was adopted and signed in 2018, many regard it as a crucial moment. But then, of course, ratification, all the legal elements are coming into force at a later stage. And also, we know that President Aliyev of Azerbaijan recently spoke with President Donald Trump. It was a long, of course, 40-minute conversation. And on the basis of my conversation with our Iranian guest, distinguished professor, there seems to be feeling inside Iran that Azerbaijan and other neighboring countries are not fully reliable. This is still there in Tehran, despite all the assurances coming from this country. Of course, naturally, all of my questions to you are of legal nature, but perhaps within this legality we can find the political kind of structure within which this discussion is happening as well. What do you think these two countries need in order to maintain a degree of certainty that will allow them to address a number of issues? Opening of communications, Trump route for international peace and prosperity is something that Iran objects to on a regular basis. Caspian Sea is another dimension. What should happen in a legal sense between these two countries to make sure all of those political problems to which Professor referred to are not as damaging as they happen to be today?
Thank you for the question. Actually, to be honest, I found this very difficult question because that's one of the challenging issues of the political experts are facing right now from the region. The main issue I will add regarding the signing and ratification of the Caspian Legal Convention will be actually ratification will help Azerbaijan to finalize the Middle Corridor project, which will actually benefit the Trump wrote for the international peace and prosperity because, as I said before, that convention will enable the Trans Caspian pipeline project to be finalized. And I would say, I would like to also add the recent remarks from the President Pezeshkian, who mentioned that Azerbaijan actually indeed helped Iran during the war, and we've been helping the Iranian government in terms of humanitarian basis. But I believe there's some lack of trust regarding, probably because of the Azerbaijan's also friendly relations with the state of Israel. And I would say maybe some kind of agreements, guarantees by Azerbaijani government regarding some national security issues vis-a-vis Israel could bring some certainty to the Iranian leadership that Azerbaijan is a friendly state and Azerbaijani territory will be not used for military purposes. And there is no such knowledge or confirmed information, but we sometimes find such news to be emerging from the Iranian media, and such information is actually damaging the bilateral relations because there is no actual truth behind that. And also we've seen during the war that there are some groups within the Iranian leadership who wants to other bilateral relations to be damaged. But I would say the central government is probably interested in keeping the friendly relations with Azerbaijan.
Professor, I'm going to put my last question to you. You already mentioned about the lack of trust when it comes to Iran's relation with its neighbors And you alluded to Azerbaijan as well, of course, and I've heard you. We're not just listening to you, but also hearing you. But there are a number of issues. Azerbaijan wants, of course, Caspian Sea, the convention to be ratified by all 5 countries, namely by Iran as well, to get a legal certainty. Middle corridor is very important for Azerbaijan's vision. For Iran, north-south corridor far more important than the middle corridor. We fully understand that. We also understand that Iran is against the Trump route for international peace and prosperity. We understand why, because Iran does not want Azerbaijan's 2 parts to be connected via Armenia, and probably Iran losing leverage. Perhaps it's all very understandable. Iran is not happy with Azerbaijan's strategic partnership with Israel. We also understand that, and there's an open conversation between Iran and Azerbaijan. And quite often the relation between these 2 countries have been described as a perennial tug of war. There have been periods of normality, nice words, diplomatic gestures, and then of course tensions. My question to you, bearing in mind differences between the visions formulated and advanced by 2 countries, what should happen in order for the 2 countries, for all their differences, to have this cooperative model which will make sure both of their interests are properly implemented on the ground?
From a political point of view, again, I'm thinking of the lack of trust as the main barrier with regards to moving beyond such kind of the legal obstacles. And as it was mentioned by another colleague, maybe there would be some discussions behind the scenes to have such kind of the security guarantees or security elements between 2 countries to facilitate ratification of the treaty and also expanding bilateral relationship. But let's to be frank here. Iran has been subject to 2 rounds of the war on aggression, unprovoked war against Iran imposed by Israelis and Americans. And it has been the huge human and civilian cost on Iranians because of those unprovoked war. And of course, there has been some good political relationship between Iranian government and the government in Baku, but something that has been much more expected, has been a very clear political stance in support of the Iranian national sovereignty and against the aggressors, that they have damaged Iranian infrastructure, and the most importantly, they have killed several Iranians, hundreds of the school children. So in such a horrific situation, a very clear political support of some neighbors around Iran has been a very clear message to Iranians, enhancing mutual trust and understanding between 2 sides. It was something that Iranians experienced during the war with regards to some other neighbors. Just last week, I was in Iraq. Almost every Iraqi that I had chance to talk with, they provided support to Iranians and they condemned aggression against Iran. There was the same for Pakistanians. But it was something that Iranians also were expected to hear clearly from the neighbors in the south, northern borders. With regards to the most recent issues that happens, as you mentioned, the Ukrainian aggressive attacks against the Iranian vessels. Also, there was no clear political stance condemning such kind of unprovoked attack. So there is a long history of the distrust between 2 countries. And for me, as an academic, I'm not a politician, I'm not in the official positions. I think also a society-to-society relationship, having much kind of the mutual understanding between intellectuals, academics, think tanks, and the media exchanges between 2 countries would also facilitate enhancing the mutual trust and mutual understanding between 2 sides. And I think we are living in an era that there is no longer anything that we could call it international.
Professor, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Indeed, I'm so grateful to you. Sadly, very sadly, our time is over. I need to find out this conversation. We're talking about mutual trust. Mutual trust is a precious commodity, and when Azerbaijan's Nakhchivan airport was attacked on the 5th of March, that mutual trust was damaged heavily as well. But of course, Iran never accepted it. We also understand that. So mutual trust is a multidimensional concept. I very much hope that we will have an opportunity to go through different compartments of Iran-Azerbaijan bilateral interaction with you at some point later. I'm very grateful to both of you gentlemen, Javed Rahimli, international lawyer, and Professor Syed Emamian from the Ami Kabir University of Technology and co-founder of the Governance and Policy think tank. Very grateful to you, both of you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Following years of rigorous and painstaking negotiations, the convention was finally adopted and signed in 2018. Iran is now moving towards ratification. We don't know, it's not guaranteed, but it's moving towards ratification. And whilst the convention will certainly not resolve every outstanding question, it will merely establish a framework full of principles surrounding the Caspian. Its entry into force could provide a degree of legal certainty that has long been absent. What that will mean for Iran's relations with its neighbours and indeed for the wider region will be fascinating to observe. You have been watching Context, and see you very soon indeed.